This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi there, and welcome to Raising Me. This is a parenting podcast where we talk about raising confident, kind, and connected kids. And we're getting expert advice on how to handle all the ups and downs that come along with that, since so often, we are winging it. I'm Adrienne Stein. And before we dive in, a really special thank you to our sponsor of Sweetser, a behavioral health nonprofit that is doing so much good here in the state of Maine. Today, we're diving into a topic that's pretty tough to talk about, really, but it is so important. It's cyberbullying. Joining us is Dr. Jeff Hutchinson. He's a pediatrician and ambassador for the American Academy of Pediatrics Center of Excellence on social media and youth mental health. As we know, social media, it's not going anywhere, right? And as Dr. Hutch, as he's known, explains, it is transforming faster than ever. So we're going to talk about why we as parents just cannot afford to sit on the sidelines and just watch to see what happens. We're going to talk about how cyberbullying today is so very different from the bullying that we experienced, many of us experienced growing up, and what we can do to protect and connect with our kids in this digital world. We're going to also dig into warning signs that we should not ignore, how to approach our kids if we suspect something's wrong, and even what to do if it turns out our own child is the one doing the bullying. It's a powerful conversation. It's real, it's judgment-free, and it's one important to hear. So let's jump in. Dr. Hutch, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for joining us for this really important conversation.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's really important to me too.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just first and foremost talk about how you're involved with this organization, which is just such a great resource for parents as a whole. And of course, we'll provide links to it. But this Center of Excellence on Social Media and Youth Mental Health. What is that all about? How did you get involved?
That's a great question. And it is a fantastic organization and resource. The way I got involved was working with Dr. Megan Moreno in the American Academy of Pediatrics Council on Communication and Media, COCOM we call it. We learned that there's a lot of overlap between social media, mental health, communication. All those things go together. So by working with her and as an adolescent physician, teaching teens and young people about communication and social media, she reached out to me and several other people to be ambassadors for the Center of Excellence. What we do is we provide medical knowledge and resources for parents, faculty, educators, anyone who wants to know more about what the research out there says about social media, mental health, and how they combine.
You know, we're talking for this particular conversation specifically about cyberbullying.
Mhm.
Why do you think this is an important conversation for us as parents to be having?
It's critical because the social media and internet are not going anywhere. In fact, there are so many ways to increase young people using social media that if parents just sit back and let it happen, they're going to fall behind. So it's important that we not only be users and educated on what's out there, we need to know what our children are doing and how we can help them too. It's really part of the whole new ecosystem. Just like when TV was invented and parents were concerned, TV has not gone anywhere. It's transformed. And I think social media is going to transform too into things we just can't imagine right now.
You know, it's funny how quickly things change. It wasn't that long ago that it was TVs in bedrooms, and that was a screen time that was really the big concern, and how quickly that has all evolved. When it comes to cyberbullying, you know, how would you define that, and how is it different from the bullying that, you know, you or I or people our ages may have experienced back in the day?
Absolutely. Cyberbullying, the difference is it's 24/7. You can be bullied now either through your phone, which is always on, through a game that you play, through social media, Instagram. It happens all the time. And that's the unfortunate truth about it. In the past, when we were young, bullying happened usually at school or on the playground, sometimes walking home from school, but home was a safe place. And now home is connected to the entire world. So cyberbullying means using any kind of media in order to harass, harm, bother any other person who is a potential victim. I don't like to use that word a lot, but that's really how people who experience cyberbullying feel.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good point. Like, usually when you would go home at 3 o'clock, at least for the most part, you would be in a safe place. On top of that, though, too, it was generally a face to face kind of situation. Maybe there was a mean note or something passed along, but it
Right.
was, you almost had to be a little bit bolder because you were doing it, directly to the person. This, and we've talked about it before, like, you are hiding behind a keyboard, so you can
Mhm.
be a, a little nastier, a little feel like you are, nobody will find out who it is, or you're protected by a screen.
Right. And there's also encouragement from the reaction of the people
Oh,
who
for
see your bullying,
sure.
right? Because back then on the playground, people would gather around and see the bullying. Now you can have people in different countries see your bullying, and that encourages the person doing the bullying to continue with their actions.
Is there, you know, are there, what kinds of platforms or online spaces might kids be most vulnerable to
Yes.
cyberbullying?
So one of the common places are online games. So a lot of people know about Fortnite. That's a game where you join 100 other people and you compete to be the last person standing. There are some comments that go along with it that people can make. That platform is pretty good about eliminating harassing other people, but it's games like that where you're playing with strangers, where the chat is open, where there's the ability to interact with other people, that bullying is possible. It can start as simple as someone being called a noob, very new to the game and not know what they're doing, to everyone joining in to harass that person for not playing as well as they think they should be playing. So that's a common one. Other ones include things like Instagram and TikTok, where people may actually make a video or post something about someone else that a lot of people who are in the same friend group might end up seeing. And that can be very distressing for young people who feel like there's nothing that they did to deserve that kind of harassment.
And so I would imagine you feel very helpless too, because then that video just lives on there. Like, how do you? It's not like somebody says something mean to you and those words go away. Now you still feel it for a
Right?
very long time, but the words disappear. With these videos or the pictures or whatever it might be, it's always out there. And who knows
It
who has
is.
saved it? So it's like just this, such a deeper level of potential hurt.
It is. And I want to get a little deeper into that word you talk about, helplessness. Parenting teens and young kids is a constant exercise in trying to overcome that lack of control. And as parents, we can feel so helpless as they get older because we can't be at school with them. We can't be online with them all the time. Part of being a parent is learning how to accept that our children have independent lives, they think for themselves. And there's a sense of helplessness because we don't have the same control we had when they were babies or little children. And especially as they become teenagers and young adults, that lack of control is that same helplessness that we feel as parents that a lot of teens can feel when they get cyberbullied. And a parent whose child is being cyberbullied, that's another level of helplessness that we can feel. So it's important to first accept the fact that there are things we won't be able to control, but two, to acknowledge that that feeling of helplessness is normal and there's things we can do to mitigate it.
And I
Um,
I, I do want to talk, a little bit more about what we as parents, first how we can identify, but then what we can then do. And before we get there, though, I want to talk a little bit about more on the kids about Are some of the emotional or the psychological effects that cyberbullying can have on them? Like, what have you seen as a doctor?
Absolutely. So one effect we always talk about social media is that fear of missing out.
Yes.
When we post things and you see things online, it's always the best of who we are, the best of what we've experienced. So kids right there are already a little more sensitive to thinking that their life is not the same as all of the other kids' lives that they see, or even celebrities that they see. I'm not sure why they want to compare themselves to celebrities, but that is something that we often see. When it comes to cyberbullying, that feeling that you're different, that you're being pointed out as someone who has a trait, characteristic, unfortunately happens with race and gender, ethnicity, all those things are prime topics for bullies to attack other people. And those feelings of not fitting in, not belonging, not having a friend and social group are very powerful. And they can lead to depression. They can lead to anxiety. Anxiety of, am I going to open my email and find 100 nasty notes from people? That's something that we unfortunately see a lot in our young people. And is something that parents need to be aware of and have that discussion if they notice that their child is spending less time online or their other work seems to be suffering. Those are some of the early signs that some of those emotions of depression or anxiety, even suicidality, may be bubbling to the surface.
Wow. I wonder too, even just the basic, feeling of embarrassment too. Like when somebody says these things about you, it's very hard for anybody, but particularly young people and teens, not to internalize that in some capacity.
Yes, internalization has to do with resiliency. And fortunately, young people are very resilient. The internalization happens when you hear the same message over and over and over again. And I tell people all the time that the more you get exposed to something, the more you do something, the more it builds pathways in our brains to think that's the way things are supposed to be. So one of the ways to decrease some of that internalization is by having other methods, other outlets, other ways to deal with just the life of growing up as a young person in this society.
Yeah. Are there certain age groups or demographics that might be more susceptible to cyberbullying than others?
That's a great question. I don't know if it's as much the age group as it is to access to the internet. Because at 10 and 11, cyberbullying is as simple as people putting a dislike, a thumbs down on something that someone may have posted. And enough people doing that may feel to a 10-year-old like everyone is against me, not enough people like me, compared to a 17-year-old who makes content and they get one comment about the way they look in a negative way. And they feel like that's the end of the world, even though they've had 20 or 30 other positive comments. So it's not so much an age group as it is the total amount of time, the friend groups, the social network that they have that makes young people more at risk for being bullied.
It's a good point. It's often for whatever reason, and right or wrong, uh, much easier to get stuck on the negative comment than the 15 positive ones. Why is that? Is that just human nature?
That is human nature. We even have a name for it. It's risk aversion. So we don't like being called um, negative things. We remember the negative much more than the positive. One group talks about 5 positive things make up for 1 negative. The actual number is not true, but it's human nature to know that we focus on negative things because we don't want to suffer that harm from negative outcomes.
So, just as parents, who are listening to this, what are, maybe some subtle or even surprising warning signs that their teen or their preteen, whoever, is for this purpose on online, that they might be experiencing cyberbullying?
Yes, the very subtle one is change in behavior and interaction with you as the parent. It's normal for teens and preteens to talk less to us, to want their own time and own space, and that's normal. But if you have a routine like dinner every night and they go from being chatty to hardly saying a word, that's a pretty significant indicator that something else is going on. We know our children, hopefully, better than anyone else. And a lot of times as parents, we want to convince ourselves that everything's okay. So sometimes we ignore those little subtle signs. Sometimes when we ask the teen, is something going on? And they say, snap back at us, no, everything's fine. We don't want to push. But it's okay to push with curiosity. I like to tell parents to ask questions so that you're trying to learn more about your young person. The question of how's your day today, that goes nowhere.
Because, no, it doesn't.
Because
even if they're perfectly fine, either way, the answer is fine.
Right. So we have to come up with more creative questions, questions about what was your favorite part? Are you still talking to your best friend, such and such? Things like that shows we've been paying attention to their lives, gets them talking a little bit.
Well, I did underline a point you made. It's okay to push with curiosity, because I will say there are times where I ask 2 or 3 questions, I kind of get nowhere. So I'm like, I think if I ask another one, I'm going to hear about it. But just that it is that simple reminder that it is okay to keep pushing with curiosity. What about when it comes to, any changes in behavior around screen time or social media use? Is that pretty much a red flag?
Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
It can be. It's tough now, right? Because everyone has a phone, and a lot of times the phones are in the bedroom, or even you can be in the same room and you have no idea what they're doing on their phone unless their body language starts to tell you something. So that is the first subtle hint, right? When someone is tense and nervous, our body language often reflects it. If someone is sweating or looking upset, that might mean something they're looking at online is bothering them. So pay attention to the body language while they're actually using social media. That can give you a good hint that maybe it's more than just the simple young adult, adolescent, preteen interaction that's going on. And it's okay to ask, did you see something that bothered you? And they may say again, no. But again, with curiosity, you can keep pushing and say, there are things online that bother me when I look at it. We can model the behavior of showing that the internet and social media is not always a fun place for everybody.
If a parent suspects that their child is being cyberbullied in some way, whether it's on social or in some of these video games that you talked about, what is the first thing that they should do?
Being able to talk to your young person is so important. And if you suspect that there's something going on, you have to ask that question. And trying to do it without judgment is probably the hardest part, because the emotion of wanting to protect our child is strong and real. And as soon as you think someone is trying to hurt your child, the protector in all of us just rises to the surface. And it's hard for a young person to know that you're mad at the other person and not mad at them for getting bullied. So keeping that in mind, to approach it gently, approach it with curiosity, and be able to get them to share with you what's going on is really important. Some parents early on, especially like the 13, 14-year-olds that just start, ask their child to include them in their friend groups. So they can promise not to make comments on everything, but it's a way to kind of see what they're doing and who they're interacting with. The greatest relationships are when families can do that, and the child and the parent trust each other that they can see what's going on. On the flip side, there are a lot of young people who don't want the parents having any idea what they're doing online. And they'll even make a fake account so that the parents will see one side of them and there's a whole nother side of them that they're displaying with their friends. And the only way you find that out is by having a conversation, or some parents have passwords to their child's devices, which can be okay. There's no guarantee for privacy, especially in those preteen and early teen years.
Can we talk a little bit about the finstas?
Yes.
Because a lot of us have we're okay on social. We know how to get around. We've got, the various apps downloaded. I would have literally no clue how to find a Finsta account.
Yeah.
Can you help us with that? Or at least, is there like a search that you could do? Like, how does one find that?
No, because they get very creative in their names. They will use all sorts of names that sound nothing like their regular name, or just a few letters off, or use a very common name. So it's hard to do the search. I would not recommend trying to be a detective to search those out. I really would recommend at some point asking your child to give you their phone unlocked, and you can actually look through some of the things that they're doing. That can be tough because they want their privacy. It feels like a break in trust. But you can say, I'm worried about how you're acting. You seem distant. You seem more moody, more upset, more anxious. And I'm really worried that there's something going on in your socials that's causing some of this to happen. We can talk about it, but I probably won't feel comfortable until you show me that you don't have a fake account, or you're not doing something else that's bothering you.
Yeah, that is a tough one, right? Because especially, my oldest is 17,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have a 13-year-old and a almost 7-year-old. But you want to have that trust. You don't want to have to ask to see a phone. And that is a very fine line to walk in some respects. On the flip side, you are their parent. This is a place. It's a virtual place, but it is a place where they spend a lot of time. You're probably paying the bill. So, so I see making a case for saying, yeah, well, go ahead and hand over your phone with kindness,
Right.
at least start there anyway.
And kids understand parental concern. They don't always agree with it because they feel invincible. They feel like they know what they're doing. They feel like they know more than we do. And that's okay. But if you approach it with, there are people out there who mean you harm. And sometimes growing up, it's hard to see that. And just because you're acting differently, I'm worried. So can we work on how to make things better for everybody?
So why do you think that some kids really just have a difficult time opening up to their parents on this? Is it the embarrassment? Is it the worry of, wait, what? Who said what to you doing? Because that would be my first instinct, right?
Right.
Instead of saying, okay, tell me more, like dig in.
Right. Most of us remember when we were young that we never liked being lectured. We never liked our parents telling us what we should do, how we should do it. That is a normal part of adolescence, growing up and getting that independence. So that is the biggest thing. Once a child turns over that control back to the parent, they lose independence. And we fight for independence. We fight to be our own person. And that's what young people do in order to have some of that privacy, have some of that control. Again, back to the control issue. We're all seeking control. And the hard part about raising teens is, as they're seeking more control, we're losing control. And it's a fight for that. So back to your original question of what can you do to help not feel like it's a break of trust and a break of privacy. It's having that conversation. It's being able to let them know that you care about them, and maybe they have a better way of helping you figure out how can you be reassured that nothing negative, nothing bad is happening to them online. And that just opens up the door for more conversation.
Is there ever a scenario where school or law enforcement should be brought in if parents are having trouble helping their teen through this?
Yes, that's a great question.
We talked about bullying from one perspective, someone being bullied, right? But someone has kids who also bully other people. And unfortunately, bullying is a reflection of being hurt. And so people who had been bullied often turn into people who are bullying other people. Law enforcement is really important when there's sexting, when there's anything related to sexual history, if anyone is being extorted for pictures or for behavior, that's really important. If there are racial or misogynistic type of comments online, law enforcement may be a good place to go. If it's related to school, you want to start with school. But if your child is getting something that is physically threatening, police need to be involved, and that information needs to be screenshot and recorded in case there is prosecution in the future.
Can we flip the script though? Because what if you're a parent and you realize your child is the bully?
Yes.
Like, how should you respond in that scenario?
The first thing is to take our own pulse and catch our own breath, right? Because again, the image of our child hurting other children, it's hard. It's hard to believe. And then as we think about it, we know that bullies often do that for some reason. And we wonder, is it my parenting? Did something else happen that made this child of mine behave that way? So once we catch our own breath, the first thing we do is have that same conversation. I understand that you are harassing John. I've gotten messages or I've seen something that suggests that you're doing this. Let's have a conversation. And you won't change any behavior until you get to the root of the behavior. And that's what the conversation is for. If you think your child is seriously threatening someone, like they have a list of people they want to harm, that's when professional help is absolutely necessary, whether it's your pediatrician, family medicine doctor, counselor. Getting someone else involved, asking for help, again, models the fact that we all need help sometimes. And young kids, actually everyone, needs to see that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but a sign that we want things to be better.
So as parents, how do we teach? What are some pro tips on teaching empathy and accountability when it comes to online spaces?
That's good. Empathy is a skill that we know some adults still don't have, right? And in order to teach it, the first thing that I tell is parents need to model it. Kids will pay attention to what we do much more than what we say. So if, as a parent, you're not modeling empathy, you're not modeling compassion, you're not modeling concern for other people, your children are probably going to feel like it's not that important to do. So start with being a role model for those things. The second is helping young people to see that others are so much more complex and so much more than just what we see on the surface. And the way we become empathetic is by seeing the things we have in common with other people. So not as simple as just I go to the same school, but I like the same video game. I was born on the same day. Their name is the same as mine. All those things that we can get our young kids to think about, to see how they are not different than the people that they may be wanting to bully or harass in different situations.
What is your take on, those parental monitoring apps or having screen time controls? Are those effective?
They are a good start. They're a good thing to think about. But I tell parents all the time, you have to remember, kids find a way around those things. So I wouldn't rely on that at all. I might think of it as a conversation starter again. We're going to put on this monitoring for a while as we start to figure out ways that we can communicate better about your social media use. But even cutting off the internet to certain devices in the house, kids find a way around how to connect their device through some other method. So don't try to stay ahead of your children through technology. Try to stay ahead of them through communication, because as adults, we should be better communicators than they are. So use that as your superpower.
I love that. What is your most important message to parents, to really take away from this when it comes to helping their kids navigate cyberbullying in, the digital world, and building that empathy piece that is a big important part?
Yes. I'm going to say there's two critical things. The first one I just talked about, modeling. If we are on our devices all the time, if we're yelling at the screen, if we're talking about what we saw on social media that really bothers us, we're showing our young people that that's what social media behavior is like. So we have to show them it's okay to turn it off. It's okay to put it away. It's okay to do something besides social media and let them see that. And then the second most important is listen. We have to be able to hear and listen to what our children are saying to us, whether it's verbally or non-verbally, and turn off that feeling that our children are perfect and can do no harm, because the reality is every one of us makes mistakes. And once we let our children know that we're there to listen without judgment, with the idea that we want to be healthier and happier as individuals and as a family, then we're well on our way to making things better.
Oh my goodness. Dr. Hutch, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your time today.
It's my pleasure.
And of course, we'll have more resources on our website, which is wgme.com/raisingme. I got to tell you, I was so grateful to connect with Dr. Hutch on this one. And just a couple of things really stood out to me. First, his reminder that we don't need to outsmart technology here. We do need to out-communicate it. As parents, we're not going to beat kids at the tech game, no question. But we can be better communicators. Open, judgment-free conversations really are the best tools that we have as parents. I also underlined this part in my notes that Dr. Hutch talked about when your kids don't want to open up to you or you're really struggling to get them to, that it's okay to push with curiosity, keeping that curiosity piece front and center. And then second, his call to model the behavior that we want to see. So if we show our kids that it's okay to unplug, to listen, and to lead with empathy, they're going to follow that example. Thank you so much for listening to Raising Me. I'm Adrienne Stein. This episode is edited by Megan Littlefield and with production help from Carissa Paulson. Thank you so much to our sponsor of Sweetser Behavioral Health. And if you found this episode helpful, be sure to follow and share it with another parent who could use some encouragement today. Wherever you are, I hope you learned something new and get to take a little time for you.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.